18 to 22. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Hi there. I'm looking for a Professor Reitman.
Yes, are you from one of my classes?
Not exactly. I'm Emily. I'm a third-year psychology student, and I'm interested in your class about Freud.
Great, that class is always popular. It fills up quickly every year.
That is sort of why I'm here, actually. I was hoping that you would let me audit the course. I should explain. Originally, I tried to register for the class online, but the system wouldn't let me. I realized afterward that it was because I didn't take the prerequisite class about, modern psychology.
Oh, that's too bad. But, the course will be offered next semester too, so you can complete the prerequisite in the meantime and sign up then.
I'm not sure I can wait. You see, I'm really interested in Freud, and I'm planning on writing an undergraduate thesis on him next year, so I really need to take the course now.
I'm sorry, but auditing doesn't sound like a good idea. My course isn't for beginners. It builds on the concepts from the modern psychology course. You could get, overwhelmed if you don't have that knowledge.
How about if I review the concepts on my own? I could catch up that way, I think.
That's a lot of material for you to cover independently.
I know I could do it. I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a chance.
Well, all right. I'll allow you to audit the course, but there is one condition.
Sure, what is it?
Well, I need you to take the course seriously. I had a problem related to this with another student who audited one of my courses. There will be a lot of class discussions based on readings, and I expect you to be prepared. That means reading the assigned material and actively contributing to the discussions. The students are meant to learn as much from each other as from me.
Of course. You've done me a huge favor, and I'm really grateful. I wonder if I could ask just one more thing.
What is it?
Well, I'm probably going to focus my thesis topic on Freud's dream theories. I think it's fascinating how he viewed our dreams as a way for our unconscious mind to, express itself. Would you meet with me at the end of the semester to give feedback on my paper's outline? Just to be clear, you wouldn't need to read anything extensive. It'd just be a brief conversation about, if my outline is workable or not.
I can't guarantee anything now. The end of the semester is a busy period for me. I'll be interviewing and hiring research assistants for the psychology department's summer research program. And we're expanding the program, so it's going to be an even bigger commitment. Anyway, if I can spare some time to review your outline, I will.
Okay, I will talk to you about this again near the end of the semester. Once again, thanks so much.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer.
18. Why does the student go to see the professor? Nineteen. What does the professor say about the course on Freud? Twenty. Why does the student mention an undergraduate thesis? 21. What condition does the professor put on the student's attendance in his class? (22) Why does the professor mention the psychology department's summer research program? (23 to 28). Listen to part of a lecture in an environmental science class.
Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the concept of peak oil. This is the idea that at some time in the future, the amount of oil available to us will begin to decline. Obviously, people are concerned about this and want to prepare for it. So there has been research into the production of synthetic fuel. Today, you're going to learn about one way that this substance is made. The process I'm referring to is called the Fischer-Tropsch method. It was developed in 1925, but it wasn't used until World War II. The German government didn't have enough fuel for its armed forces, so it decided to make use of this process. The Fischer-Tropsch method involves the conversion of the carbon in organic material into either gasoline or diesel. Coal and natural gas were used initially, but in recent years, it has become common to use biomass instead. Now,
Excuse me, Professor, but what do you mean by biomass? I'm not familiar with that term.
I guess I should explain. In the broadest sense, biomass is simply the remains of organisms. But in the context of energy production, this term is used to refer to plant material, like wood or agricultural waste products. I should probably point out that some farmers have actually started growing crops solely for conversion into fuel. Corn is a good example of this. Anyway, let's take a look at the Fischer-Tropsch method in detail. How does this process work? Well, the first step is to expose the organic material to heat and pressure. This causes it to break down into two gases, carbon monoxide and hydrogen. This mixture of gases is called syngas. Okay, next, the syngas is filtered to remove any chemical impurities. After that, a catalyst is added. What do you think I mean by this?
A catalyst is just something that causes change, right? So I assume you're talking about some sort of material that alters the syngas.
Exactly. The catalyst is a chemical element such as iron that triggers a chemical reaction in the syngas. Depending on the catalyst used, the molecules in the syngas will combine in different ways, and this determines the type of synthetic fuel that will eventually be produced. The final stage of the process involves cooling the syngas so that it becomes a liquid. The end result is a synthetic form of gasoline or diesel that produces very little pollution when burned, which is obviously a significant advantage. Yes?
Is that because the impurities were removed?
To some extent. Getting rid of toxic substances during the production process definitely results in a fuel that is cleaner when it burns. But that's not the whole story. The main reason this fuel causes so little pollution is the materials it's made from. They contain few pollutants. And, of course, another major advantage is that plant matter is renewable, so we will never run out of synthetic fuel. I should also point out that this fuel is compatible with existing gasoline and diesel engines. Any car can use it. But synthetic fuel isn't going to start appearing at gas stations anytime soon. It has one major drawback. It's very expensive to make. Unless researchers come up with a less costly production process, well, let's just say that synthetic fuel won't be widely used until this happens.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer.
23. What is the main topic of the lecture? "24. Why does the professor mention the German government? "25. According to the professor, what is synthetic fuel commonly made from? "26. In the lecture, the professor explains the sequence of steps involved in the production of synthetic fuels. Put the steps listed below in the correct order. "27. What are the advantages of synthetic fuel? Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
But synthetic fuel isn't going to start appearing at gas stations anytime soon. It has one major drawback. It's very expensive to make. Unless researchers come up with a less costly production process, well, let's just say that synthetic fuel won't be widely used until this happens.
28. Why does the professor say this?
But synthetic fuel isn't going to start appearing at gas stations anytime soon.
(29 to 34).
Listen to part of a talk on literature.
Back in the 20th century, well, that's not so long ago, one of the most important reading skills was extensive reading. That is, reading to determine the overall meaning of a written work. The text was supposed to have a single meaning or theme, if you will, and the reader's goal was to grasp that one meaning. Well, you and I know that we don't always read to extract the meaning of a text. That's not always our goal. So what I want to do today is to focus on two aspects of reading, the aesthetic and the functional. And as you might have guessed, these aspects have something to do with what our purpose is when we read literature. Now, there's nothing nicer than curling up in an armchair to read a book, right? I hope I'm not speaking for myself. There was a time when the American public was truly a reading public. Well, that's essentially what the aesthetic aspect is. People read a book to enjoy it. When you're into what you're reading, you become much more aware of what you're experiencing as you read. The reading event evokes ideas, feelings, associations, memories of perhaps similar experiences. The values you have and how these are challenged or affirmed by what you're reading. Whatever the reader brings to the reading is as important as what is contained in the text. You're exploring the work and yourself. The functional aspect, on the other hand, is, shall we say, more practical. The objective of the reader is to take away certain pieces of information that can be used that might provide a logical way to solve a problem or answer a question. Let's say you have a pop quiz on history, and you need to know the causes of the American Civil War. Well, you open your textbook to those pages that will give you the information you need. You might underline what those causes are in your textbook. So, the difference between this aspect and the aesthetic aspect is you're not caught up in what you're reading. It's not an emotional or sensational experience for you. Here's a question for you. Is it possible to read a work of literature having, as your purpose, both aspects? Let's look at the children's book, Good Night Owl, by Pat Hutchins. It has a pretty simple plot. During the daytime, the protagonist, an owl, can't sleep because the other animals in the forest are making a real racket. The owl gets so annoyed that when the animals fall asleep at night, it starts screeching so that they wake up and aren't able to get a good night's sleep. If you're reading this book to a group of small children, what might be a good way to turn the event into an aesthetic experience? You might get the kids to imitate the sounds the animals make. The children can really get into that. Have any of you seen this book? The author uses onomatopoeia to help children pick up the sounds the animals make and how noisy these sounds are, like the crunch, crunch of chipmunks eating acorns. Very young children love to imitate sounds like that. Now, what about the functional? Well, to help children understand the setting of the story, the reader might describe or draw the owl's habitat. That way, the kids can understand how come all these animals live together in one place. So, it's entirely possible, isn't it, to satisfy both aspects when you're reading a work of literature.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. 29. What is the lecture mainly about? "30. What does the professor say about extensive reading?
"31. Why does the professor mention curling up in an armchair to read a book?
(32) According to the professor, what are two characteristics of the aesthetic aspect of reading? (33) Why does the professor talk about Pat Hutchins' Good Night Owl?
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
You might get the kids to imitate the sounds the animals make. The children can really get into that. Have any of you seen this book? The author uses onomatopoeia to help children pick up the sounds the animals make and how noisy these sounds are, like the crunch-crunch of chipmunks eating acorns. Very young children love to imitate sounds like that.
34. Why does the professor say this?
Have you ever seen this book?